Diablo 4 is within 2 weeks of officially launching to the world, and something is pretty clear to me. Diablo 4 is probably going to be the most dominant ARPG for years to come. Now, I already see the Path of Exile players foaming at the mouth for me saying this, but at the end of the day, I don't really see a reason why it's not. Blizzard has shown time and time again during the beta weeks and Server Slam that they are committed to the players, and I'm convinced. You know what? I'll explain it. It's pretty simple. Blizzard is doing a handful of things right compared to other ARPGs in the genre, and what the company is doing as a whole is setting itself up to be the face of ARPGs once again. Not convinced yet? Well, sit back and I'll explain. Pay to win. Now, one thing that really had me and the community worried is the pay to win possibilities of Diablo 4. And coming off the hot garbage that is Diablo Immortal, it's no surprise that players like myself were pretty worried. Bobby Kodak Yacht isn't going to pay for itself, and why not open up the floodgates of cash flow through the over monetization of Diablo 4? Let's be real for a moment. Pay to win or not, countless people will buy Diablo 4 regardless. So it makes sense to make it pay to win like Diablo Immortal, right? Well, no. Phone games are historically pay to win. There is no phone game in the market that doesn't have a built-in pay to win feature. Hell, my exercise app has a pay to win feature in it. So I don't think it's quite a weird expectation to think that Diablo Immortal was going to be anything less than pay to win. And I know you're thinking, but Saga, Blizzard went ham with how pay to win Diablo Immortal was. And while that's true, getting pissed on my face for 15 seconds may be worse than 5, but regardless of the duration of pissing, I can't say I think of these two hypothetical pissers differently. At the end of the day, phone games are inherently paid to win, and regardless of how paid to win one or the other is, I do think it's just silly to think that Diablo Immortal wasn't going to be that. Now, don't get me wrong, I had my fears, but thus far, Blizzard hasn't really shown me anything that leads me to worry about pay to win. The closest thing thus far has been the head start of 3 days, and while some view it as bad, you can simply not support it if you don't like it, and eventually they will stop doing it. Now, since there aren't any leaderboards and nothing really competitive besides maybe the PvP, I can't really see myself caring too much about paying a little bit more to play. If you look at anything Blizzard has been doing for the last few months, it's obvious that pay to win is something they're actively avoiding, and I genuinely believe that the game won't be pay to win. Now, a lot of you hate the Battle Pass, and personally, I will be supporting the Battle Pass every 3 months. First off, I'm addicted to skins and cosmetics. Second, $10 to support the creation of a game I perceive as good isn't really much. And I will say I did pay $70 for both Hogwarts Legacy and Jedi Survivor and got a total of 6 days worth of game time from them. So a $40 a year investment for many months plus with Path of Exile style updates every season, I can't really see myself thinking it's bad. Plus, again, skins. Long story short, do I love having early access tied to new game releases? No, not really. But I also don't expect Blizzard to take the moral high ground on this. This is going to be an issue for a lot of games, and us as consumers are going to have to take the stand when it comes to this problem. As long as there's no pay to win, and seemingly there aren't any, I'm on board with Blizzard. Blizzard is listening to feedback. Now let's talk about how Blizzard has been handling feedback for the game, because if I'm being honest, I think Blizzard's response for Diablo 4 has been leaps and bounds better than even that of Path of Exile. Case in point, one of the biggest complaints for Path of Exile has been the need to level multiple characters through the story to start playing the actual endgame. Let me be clear, the PoE team is very well aware of the community's dislike for this, and even some of the most influential creators and outspoken players have actively spoken up, and to this day there has not been a solution even offered. Blizzard, on the other hand, has already managed to give a solution to this problem even before the launch of the game. Recently, even the Path of Exile team actually made it a bit harder to level, which in turn even had some of the biggest and usually positive creators like Zizarin confused and a bit negative about it, which is very uncharacteristic of him. It doesn't stop there though. The Diablo 4 team has actively made changes for the game through numerous patches, buffing classes that felt underpowered like the druid summons, giving the barbarian more defensive benefits early, and rebalancing the necromancer and the sorceress as the classes felt overtuned. Of course, the Necromancer did feel underpowered to a lot of players in the recent Server Slam. The team did see the feedback from the community and instantly fixed it. Most teams would have waited till the launch, but not the Blizzard team. They did it during the Server Slam, and that's pretty impressive if you ask me. They heard us about dungeon layout and backtracking. They've heard us about boss fights being a bit more unbalanced towards melee classes, and they heard us about class balance as a whole. Most importantly, rather than just hearing us, they did something about it. Compared to a lot of other ARPGs in the genre, they've been nothing but receptive to feedback for the game, and unlike most, they are actually doing something about it. At this point, I bet you're thinking, how much is Blizzard paying this guy to say this? Can you believe there are people in my YouTube comments who accuse me of being paid off by Blizzard? I would love to be in the pockets of Blizzard, but I'm way too small to matter, so no, Blizzard isn't paying me off. Funny enough, in other videos, I get hate for being a hater of Blizzard when I say something critical about Blizzard. I'm not exactly sure how those two opposites work, but I'll let you guys in on a little secret. Embrace yourself, because this one, it may shatter your mind. You can actually be critical of a game and have positive things to say about that same game and still not completely hate it or mindlessly shill for it. Pretty crazy, right? Well, I'll give you a moment to absorb this shocking news while I point out my next point. Blizzard's approach to gameplay. At the moment, Diablo IV is shaping up to be a game that even the most casual players can jump into. The game is pretty accessible to casual players with Paragon boards, uniques, and world bosses, nightmare dungeons, and even Helltide events, to name a few, and it looks like the in-game is going to be jam-packed with a lot to do. One thing that I'd like to point out is there is no ARPG releasing with as much content as Diablo IV is releasing with. Yes, after a decade of consistent updates and seasonal updates, Path of Exile is dominant with content, and it can be argued that the implementation of these seasons only served to bloat and complicate the game. Hell, Zizern has an entire university series dedicated to this because it's so complicated and bloated. But nonetheless, the game took a decade to get where it is today. Torchlight, Infinite, and Last Epoch are probably the only two ARPGs that I can think of in recent memory to have a lot of content like this on release. And considering that the Blizzard team is going to be following with the seasonal content like Path of Exile does, this is really promising, as Blizzard is pretty good at taking ideas from other games and making them better. Diablo 3 was a shit show. Blizzard was very lazy with the seasonal updates compared to Path of Exile, and honestly, Blizzard really put zero effort into making the game better. We did get Reaper of Souls, and while the DLC was fine, the game at that point was very clearly the lesser ARPG. On top of the lackluster updates, the season basically handed you gear with set items, and honestly, that game was the most on-the-rails experience of a game I've ever experienced as an ARPG player. Let me be clear when I say this. Diablo IV is not following the same trend. The game is not going to have these lazy seasonal updates, and will have full-fledged mechanic updates with new items, uniques, and even crafting options. To add to this, there won't be set items on launch, and most importantly, when they are added to the game, the team has come out and said that the set items won't be as powerful as legendaries or uniques, and that's music to my ears. I've taken a firm stance on set items. I think they're cool, but I don't believe very deterministic sets of items should be rewarded with the same power as creative builds. But what's your thoughts on this? So what have we learned today? First off, Blizzard has taken extra care to distance himself from pay-to-win aspects in Diablo IV. Honestly, I don't recall a single time that the main non-phone titles for Diablo was pay-to-win. But again, the team is taking care to make sure that there's nothing that can be perceived as pay-to-win. Yes, there will be early access, there will be a battle pass, and there will be paid DLCs. Very normal stuff for a live service game in 2023. If you don't like it, vote with your wallet and don't support it. Secondly, the team is actively listening to the issues that the player base is facing, and even drawing information from other titles to single out issues that even those games have been dealing with for years, while still actively and hastily responding to feedback and balance changes. Was the Necro change great? Probably not, but they are making an effort, and you can't get it right every time, but at the very least, they are making an effort. And lastly, the gameplay loop. It looks like there will be something for everyone. If you're a casual player, you'll be able to enjoy the game and get tons of hours out of it with seasonal updates, world bosses, and many other events. If you're a more hardcore player, there will always be ways to maximize your build with farming ancestral and sacred items. And if you're a true sadist, you can even indulge in the hardcore PvP gangfest. Overall, I'm excited for Diablo IV, and I believe the majority of us are. Regardless of how much hate we see, 90% of you will be there at launch, just like me, and the other 5% will slowly and begrudgingly join. Either way, I'm excited to experience all that Sanctuary has to offer on June the 6th, and only time will tell if Blizzard will disappoint us once again.